Hey, it's Jag. Today it's going to start looking like a winder.
Yeah.
All right, well, the first few episodes of this series were all involved in getting the parts together, getting the parts for the cabinet, getting everything basically ready to build the winder. Today's the day that we actually start putting it together. We won't be finishing the winder today. I'm hoping to get as far as having the whole, what I call the tower, put together and ready to go. And then I need to, as I've said before, make some custom parts for mounting the live center, the traverse, and the tensioner column. So those will be the things that I do in the next episode. I'm going to start by putting the digital counter into the front panel of the cabinet. Because I used 3/4 inch wood, the actual the way that the counter fits in is there are these little tabs on the sides, and they go into these little notches, so that when you push the cestos in and the mounting ring butts up against the inside of the cabinet, the cestos also actually locks in place. That won't happen with this because I've used thicker wood, 3/4 inch wood instead of 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is screw this into the back of the cabinet, put the counter in, and then I'll just run some tape or something around it to keep it from coming out. It's probably not going to come out anyway. Most of the pressure on it is going to be when you're pushing the buttons to push it in. So not really a big issue one way or the other, but that would at least keep the counter from slipping out down the road. I can still pull it this far out. Those little clamps or those little clips do keep it from coming all the way out, so I probably don't really need to put anything around it to keep it in place. So I'm just going to stick with it like this for now. If I find down the road that that's coming out, I can always put some tape or something around it to keep it from moving forward. But I can shake it pretty heavy and it's not coming loose. So next thing to do is the back panel and to mount the fan. And if you recall, I moved the power connector from the front panel to the back panel. So I'm going to install the fan and the fan guard, and this power connector will get glued in to its spot, and the back panel will be done. So I have a real mishmash of screws and nuts and bolts, and some are Phillips head, some in the great Canadian tradition are Robertson head. Just a mix of them all. Like I say, I'm just working with what I have here. Everything is fine, but these screws that I had were about 1/2 inch too long, so I cut them down with my Dremel. And I am noticing now that one of these I cut almost too short. I think it's going to fit. Hopefully I don't have to go out and cut another one. Yeah, no problem. Well, that's the fan installed. All of these screws and nuts and bolts that I'm putting in, I'm tightening them down fairly snug, but I'm not really cranking them down. I don't want to crack the plastic, for example, for the fan, or putting the circuit boards in. I definitely wouldn't want to crank things down and crack a circuit board. I'd have to wait another 3 or 4 weeks for some of these to get a replacement part in, plus the cost. So When you're building yours, do the same. Just tighten everything down nice and snug, but don't crank on it. I'm going to glue the power, the female power jack in its hole. It fits very tight, but I'm going to glue it in just so that we're covered. That's the entire back panel assembled. In my January update video, I said how I had been working on streamlining my workflow, planning my shoots out ahead of time, and it seems to be working. My videos have been so short lately, and I think we're headed for another short one now. At any rate, on we go. The next thing to do is to install the winder motor into the side plate. And I get to pull the plastic off now. That panel is looking kind of pretty. One thing you want to do when you're getting the screws for your motor, make sure you don't get them too long. If they're too long, they will go down and they will hit, I think they hit the armature if it's too long, and that could really damage your motor if you don't notice that before you fire it up. So once you get your screws and put them in and have them on the panel, make sure you can still hand turn the motor and you should be okay. That's the winder motor installed, and it still does spin freely, no problems. So the next thing to do is install the Pololu Hub, universal hub, onto the shaft of the motor, and that is what the plate, the bobbin plate, will mount to. Before I tighten the hub right down, I want to put the plate on the front to make sure that the shaft of the motor is not sticking out beyond the face of the bobbin plate. That would cause your bobbin to rock, and that wouldn't be a good thing. And I gotta say, this was the most difficult part of the build for me, was building this bobbin plate. I was really concerned about getting everything right, and it turned out well, and it really looks good too. The end of the spindle is just sitting about a 32nd of an inch below the face of the plate, so I'm good with that. I'm going to just snug up this hub. And there we go. The motor installed and the hub is in there. I'm not going to put the plate on just yet. We will do that as part of the final assembly. The next thing to do is install the Cytron board onto the main platform. And if you recall, I'm going to be using hard rubber washers as standoffs instead of actual nylon standoffs. And that's the Cytron board installed, and like I said, just tighten the screws snug. Next thing is to install the Arduino. So we have the Cytron board, the Arduino. Next thing is to install some header pins to the Synthetos gShield board. Okay, well that's the 3 header pins soldered into the gShield. Next we need to attach the gShield to the Arduino board. And that's just a simple matter of lining up pins and plugging it in. There's the gShield installed. Now we start in on the wiring. I'm going to wire up most of the components for what I'm calling the tower. Today I'm not going to wire the stepper motor for the traverse and the photo interrupter. I need to look up that stepper motor and figure out for sure that I know what the pinouts are on it for soldering. And for the photo interrupter, it turns out I don't have a 220 ohm resistor. It's the only one I don't have. So I've got one of those on order. So I will be wiring up, like I say, everything for the main winder or tower, if you want to call it that. And I will wire the stepper motor and the photo interrupter after we've made the all of the mounting pieces for that and got those pieces in place. Not a lot of soldering on this project. I've of course soldered the 3 header pins in. I'm going to have to solder wires, 3 wires to those. All the rest of the wiring is screw terminals. I'm going to start by wiring the Cytron board. And we can start with this harness that comes with it. That plugs in at the back of the board here. We won't be using the red wire on this harness, and we won't be using the connector at the terminating end of these wires. So I'm just going to cut that off, and I will just leave enough wire to wire in to the various locations. I'm going to leave the white one a little long because it needs to go up to the digital counter. I'm going to cut the red one because it doesn't get used at all. And the black and yellow wires will just be going over onto the gShields. I need 2 red wires on the Cytron board, one coming from this solder pad and one coming from this solder pad. Next we need 2 black wires, one to this solder pad and one to this solder pad. We need 1 red wire going from this header pin, and it will go up to the digital counter. Next we need a black wire going to this screw terminal and a red wire going to this screw terminal. And we need a red wire from this terminal from the power supply and a black wire from this terminal of the power supply. We aren't going to need the connector at the end of the wires for the fan, so I'll just cut that off. And we got quite a bit more wire than we need, so I'll cut it a little bit short. A number of these wires are going to go into 2 morettes. Those are all power connectors. They're either black wires or red wires. I'm going to gather all of those wires and we're going to tie those together first. And there's another wire to cut, a black wire that will go to the digital counter. 5 of these red wires will also terminate at a moret. I have yet another wire to cut, one that is also going to go to the counter. And twist on the moret for those wires. These 2 wires, this red and black wire from the Cytron board will go to the winder motor. The DC motor, of course, is a DC motor, so it has a plus and minus connection. This one is worn off a little bit, so I'm just going to color it in with red pen just to make sure that we always know which one is the positive terminal. If we ever have to rewire this, I'm also going to mark it right here. I just have 4 wires to connect to the counter, and we will be done for today. And forgot to turn the camera on to record that, so I've got everything wired up in the tower, and it's all looking good. You can see down here, the rat's nest we'll call it, but that's what wiring kind of looks like. When I do the final assembly of this, I'll neaten up the wire dress a little bit more. But for right now, this is good enough until we are ready to do the final wiring. So we still have to wire the photo interrupter for the counter and the linear slide for the traverse. I also have to make the mounting hardware for some of that and place all of this stuff and make sure that it's all set right. So that'll be what I'm doing in the next video. But let's plug this in and see what we get. Of course, I can't start the DC motor or anything like that, but when I plug this in, I should get the fan, and the counter should light up, and I should be able to select numbers on it. There also should be some lights on the Arduino board and the Cytron board and the gShield. So let's plug it in and see what we get. Yeah, got fan. Blue light lit. There's a green light right here on the Cytron board. And I can't see the light on the Arduino because it's underneath the gShield. But if the gShield's lit, I'm assuming the Arduino is going to be okay too. We do have the counter lit. It's taking input. So the display is working, the counter is getting power, and I'm very encouraged. So, as I say, I'm going to leave it at this for this episode. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check out my band One Soul Thrust. We just this week added our first and second albums for streaming on our YouTube channel. So now all 4 of our albums are available for free streaming on our YouTube channel. So go on over and check that out, especially if you're a fan of classic 70s, 80s style rock and funk rock. And until the next video, we'll see you.